sắp nha, Lester ơi. Lester, not take a break. Prepare coffee.
A lot coffee.
But I see you not go anywhere. You sit in front of the computer.
Yeah, I'm reading a little about the conference, but don't worry.
Good students.
Okay, goodbye.
Oh, bye. Stay with me. Don't go. Stay with me. Okay, good morning, everyone. All of you back already?
Madam.
Good morning. Good morning. Are you sleepy?
Good morning.
No, madam.
Good morning.
No?
Good morning.
But I feel sleepy. Okay, shall we start? Now the 32 participants come to join our lecture. And now 10 a.m. already. So shall we start the topic for the second session for today? We will start with emotional quotient, and after that we will continue with its executive function. I think everyone knows this term before because the emotional quotient was defined around 100 years ago. And because of limitation of knowledge and the research, so no one continued to study about this term. But now, this term was emphasized again around 30 years ago. So first of all, I will talk about the definition of emotional quotient. Everyone know about this term, right? Emotional quotient, emotional intelligence. So the definition, many research define the EQ, emotional quotient or emotional intelligence. I will call EQ for short name of this term. So many researchers define EQ in their own definition, but in each definition has the same main idea about this definition. So we will start with Mayer and Salovey because both of them are pioneers to start with EQ. Again, he defined that EQ is ability to recognize one's own and other feelings and emotion, and will use emotion to guide their thought and their action. And after that, Baon will add some more detail about meaning of EQ. He said that emotional quotient cover the adapting and coping with environmental demand and pressure. And the next, Goleman is a psychologist. He is the first person who wrote the book about emotional quotient. He worked at Harvard University. He defined broader about meaning of emotional quotient. He add about the ability to manage their emotion and how to keep relationship with others. So to summarize the definition of the emotional quotient, the EQ is the recognizing of their own feeling and other, and the next process is dealing with emotion by adapting and coping both negative feeling and positive feeling. And then they're thinking about information that they recognize the feeling of their own and other, and they're thinking about this information and they think how to act on the way that to maintain good relationship with other. They did a summarize for the definition of EQ. So, and the next is conceptualization of emotional intelligence. Why we'll talk about the conceptualization? Because the conceptual framework is related with the tools that we use to measure the emotional quotient. If you're surfing the internet, you will find many tools for assess the emotional intelligence. But I will show you about 3 tools because it's related with the tool that popular in the Western country, and the two related with the definition that they define that I mentioned former. So the first is from Meyer and Survey model. They categorize the emotional intelligence in 4 types of ability. The first is the perceiving emotion. It means that they can identify their own emotion and other emotion and can interpret the emotion by face, by voice, or by picture. They know and they can interpret the emotion of oneself and other. The second is using the emotion. Using the emotion is mean that they're thinking about the emotion and they try to use it or validate various cognitive to use it in the positive way, positive thing or themselves. And the third one is understanding emotion. It means that they understanding in depth of emotion. They know how emotion grow up when over the time, something like that. The fourth one is managing emotion. Is the ability to regulate emotion to achieve the goal. If you see the definition of each ability, it will be complex, right? Because the Meyer and Survey made the tool based on this conceptualized framework for schooler and for adults. So why the meaning of each domain is really complex. And the next is bound model as well, consists of the 5 components. The first one is interpersonal. Interpersonal is about ability to understand and accept themselves, how to express the feeling in a positive way. And the second is interpersonal. Interpersonal is ability to understand and aware how others feel, that we call empathy other, aware or concerned about how others feel, and ability to be a part of some group and how to maintain the satisfied relationship. And the third is stress management. Stress management is how to dealing with adverse event and stressful situation. And the fourth one is adaptability. Adaptability is like the act of people when they face the immediate situation and try to attempt and keep things to the correct way. And the 5 is general mood. It's focused on how to maintain the positive and hopefully attitude. And the third conceptualized framework is developed by Goldman model. He divided it in 4 domains. The first is self-awareness. Self-awareness is the same meaning from Barron or Soloway. They said that about ability to read, to understand the emotion, themselves emotion, and self-management is how to controlling the emotion and adapting to changing the circumstance. And the third is social awareness. Social awareness is about ability to understand and react to other feeling, to keep the relationship with others. And the fourth one is relationship management. It covers the conflict management as well. So you can see that in every framework, they will talk about the same view for understanding on emotion and other feeling and how to act to maintain the relationship with others. Because this is a core concept of EQ. So what factors affecting the development of EQ? So it's undeniable that parents mainly affect the child acquisition of emotional skill. because emotional learning starts from family and continue over the period of childhood. So you can see that when the infant period, when the child express or when the child wants something, they express through their emotion by smile, crying, right? Because they cannot speak in the word. So the expressed emotion is their first language. So when they cry, it means that they want something or need something from the caregiver, from the parents. If they cry and someone comes to comfort them, they will feel safe and secure, and they become good on emotional quotient because they meet their requirement. But in the other hand, if they cry but no one comes to comfort them, they continue to cry louder and louder. After that, they will learn that, oh, if I cry louder or if I show some aggressive behavior, I will get some comfort from the mother or the caregiver. So in the future, maybe in the childhood, in the toddler period or the preschooler period, they will become aggressive when they want something because they learn the emotion through the caregiver, through the parents. So, and severe stress also affect the brain's learning center, which happen if the child didn't meet that I mentioned earlier. Because Ajahn Ladda will mention about the negative, about the stress on the stress affect the brain learning center as well yesterday that I learned that you learned before. The negative emotion is not affect only on emotional quotient. It will affect the emotional intelligence and executive function as well. So that's why the parent is a key person who will start to develop the quality of emotional intelligence for the children. So the next, how important of emotional intelligence. So many research prove that emotional intelligence related with many aspects of life. So it is start from infant to until they grow up. So from the children period, emotional quotient related with the cognitive ability and result in the good academic performance by measure by GPA. And then they grow up to adulthood. The EQ will positive associated with the work experience, the job satisfaction, something like that. So emotional intelligence is very important, start from the infant period to the adulthood and continue until they go older. So if children have high EQ, they will be cheerful, they will have self-motivation to do something new, to learn something new, and they can control the emotion when they face or when they experience with the new environment, new situation. They can control and they can balance their emotion. They can use a logical and rational when they experience with something, and they will have positive relationship with others because they know their own feeling and they can recognize other feeling and they think before they act. They know they will try to think the way how to keep relationship with others. That's why the children with high EQ can keep positive relationship with others and be friendly. And in addition, they will more empathy. Empathy is mean that they learn or they know how others feel, they're concerned how others feeling. And EQ will help children to pay attention on their tasks until they're finished. So this is the importance of EQ. That's why we have to promote the children, because in the past we focus on IQ only because we believe that EQ is very important for children to make their better life in the future. But 30 years ago, we found that EQ is not enough for build a better future for children. EQ is become important like IQ as well. So why we have to promote the EQ for the children, especially in the childhood period? Because in the childhood period, the brain is growing rapidly. So in many areas of the brain will work rapidly as well. So it's a golden period for them to develop disability. So from this point, do you have any question? Because it's only theory. Be quiet. Okay, you can share the next one because we will talk about EQ in Thailand. I think you will have question about our definition and our tool because we don't use the assessment tool from Western country. We develop the own one for our country. So I think from that session you will share your experience or your knowledge about your country and ask some questions. So this is a tool for emotional quotient assessment. All of this tool is developed based on the conceptualized framework that I mentioned earlier, but most of this tool is used for school age or adult. So that is not appropriate to use for early childhood or preschooler. So that's why in Thailand we didn't use the tool for Western country. So I will not describe about the detail of this tool because we don't use it in our country. So now we will focus on the emotional quotient in Thailand. That I said earlier about the definition of EQ. For in Thailand, we also define our meaning of EQ as well, but it's not different from the Western or from international definition, but we add some points that are appropriate with our children. So in Thailand, we define EQ is the ability to understand and control the emotion and their demand appropriately, and also cover the adaptation and living with other people with happiness. For Thai definition, we add some term about happiness to living with others in some point of the definition because we will use it to develop the tool for assess the EQ for children. So in Thailand, we define, we categorize the emotional quotient into 3 domains. You can see that is not different from national definition, but we have to define in our own way. We categorize into 3 domains. The first one is smartness. Smartness is ability to improve themselves to reach their goals. And the second one is goodness. Goodness is ability to live with others, to keep the relationship with others, something like that. And the third one is happiness. Happiness is ability to live with a happy life, to find a happy activity, to find something for their own happiness, and being optimistic person, something like that. We use 3 words to define emotional quotient of preschooler. So the goals of emotional quotient development. In each domain, we set the goal for the child to reach in each domain. For smartness, we want them to know other feeling, other emotion, and they can express their own feeling directly. And they can be generous. It means that's in sharing things with others and know the wrong and the right thing. For knowing the wrong and the right thing, it means that they can admit when we do something wrong and they can say sorry when they do something inappropriate or do something wrong. And the next is goodness. Goodness is active to learn. Active to learn is mean that they interesting to learn the new thing, always asking the question when they're wondering or they want to know. And the second one is good adaptation. Good adaptation is mean that ability to adapt themselves with the unfamiliar situation or with unexpected situation. They can adapt their thought, their mind, and they can direct their act with the unfamiliar situation. The third one is assertiveness. Assertiveness is mean that they can stand at the front of their friends and can show something in the good way. And the third one is happiness. Happiness is about the state of proud of oneself. How I measure the proud of oneself? I measure when they said about something that they're proud. They can express the thing or the story that they're proud about themselves. The second one is feel hearty. Feel hearty is about they trust others. They can say the negative feeling to others, because the people will become happy when you can say the good thing and the bad thing with other people. You can sharing the negative emotion or the bad situation in yourself with others. So that's why we put feel happy in this happiness, because it's very important. If the children cannot express their negative feeling, they will become pressure and will have negative effect in many aspects of their life. And the third one is cheerfulness. Cheerfulness is meant that they can play with others without isolate themselves, something like that. So this is the goal of preschooler for develop EQ in each domain. Follow our definition. Everyone want to share something? Do you have, in your country, do you have the tool for access the emotional quotient for the children in your country? Or maybe you use the Western tools for access the EQ of children in your country? You can share with me. You can share with us, because our country, we will develop the tool or our own definition around 16 years ago. No questions?
Oh.
Are you asleep now?
No, we are here, but as my country, Cambodia, in general, we don't have that kind of thing. But recently, as my hospital, because we are the national one, so we just start on that. And I think the tool that we create by ourselves, I think we use from other countries. Organization, yes, they did have some they are created by their own, but for in general we don't have that.
You don't have the tool for access the EQ, but in the school, in the kindergarten, what tool that teacher used to measure the EQ of preschooler?
Honestly, I'm not clear.
I'm not clear. At the school, at the kindergarten, I think emotional quotient is like the one of learning outcome that teacher have to measure it, or the government measure the EQ for children. So I want to know the tool that they use to measure, to access the emotional quotient preschooler in your country. Are you?
Well, in my case, I'm from Nicaragua. Real is a new topic, and then Northern education, we have not a specific topic about the quotient development. But this is interesting how you apply it in the childhood for promote the the adaptation in all the environment, but in real it's a new topic for me, and I have not knowledge how my country is applying that.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Okay, if no question, we want to go next. It's difficult topic, right?
Yes, I want to share that in Honduras, we don't, I mean, we use it or we have it, but mostly in private schools, because in public schools, I mean, in our country, children go to school till 5 years old. Before that, we don't have a national or a public or government, we don't have kindergartens or nurseries in a public area. So our kids just go to public schools till 5 years old. So we have this, because in private school, they're like from 40 days. You can take your kids from 40 days. And they have this, they have the EQ, but not in governmental institution. So it's very, I don't know if you're gonna talk more about or mention the tools that you use, like to promote this in parents. I don't know if you have parent sessions, or if, I don't know how you promote this with kids' parents.
I will talk about it later, because in Thailand we have the tool for the parents and the tool for the teacher for promote. We have the guidebook for parents to promote the EQ by activities. We use the activities to guide the parent to promote the EQ for the children. And we have like a short version, short form for access them. It's easy to use, parent can use it to access the EQ of children. Everyone can use it. So that's why it's easy for our country to access the EQ, because we develop it in the easy way to use it. Okay, and Iman, you want to share something?
Yes, I want to say that we are similar to Honduras. Like Cindy said before, we don't have EQ assessment to preschoolers, but it's present in private sector and among some studies in universities. They can do it to assess how this will develop. They take different and random samples, but assessment of EQ is present in children with difficulty in attention or with ADHD. They have EQ assessment, but other children, normal one, they don't.
Yes, is it because of the emotional quotient in the preschool is not matter, so that's why in the national we don't have the tool for access the emotional quotient. So from this problem, so that's why Thailand start to develop our tool, because we want to access EQ start from preschooler, right? Because you can see that I mentioned before about the tool to access EQ. They develop for use with the children at 7 of age, or maybe in some the adolescent. But for Thailand, we think it's too late if we access the EQ at that time, because we found that the EQ is start and develop at the period of the early childhood, right? So we have to start as soon as possible, that we know how to promote the EQ for the children. That's why we develop this tool for our children.
Is it obligatory? Is it obligatory to assess EQ function?
Yes, whole country. We use this in whole country. The teacher will use this tool that developed by our government in whole country. And we use this tool for survey the EQ of preschooler every year, because they want to know the changing of EQ every year, and we have to set the plan for improve the EQ for Thai children.
This is great.
Ajahn Pismai will share some information with you guys.
Let's get, if you remember, you go back to the current situation in early childhood in Thailand, you will see one dimension that I taught you is EQ. We have some a number of children have some problem about the EQ development. If you go back, you will see. So we believe that only IQ is not enough to become a successful. Why we add the EQ and EF in the area of early childhood development in Thailand.
Ajahn Pismai mentioned EQ is the one of indicator of child health. So that's why we have to develop the tool for assess EQ for the children. So we have a guidebook for EQ development in preschool children. So developed by Department of Mental Health, Ministry of Public Health. So this book, you can see that the green one at the right corner of the presentation, it is a guidebook for teacher. We distribute this guidebook for teacher in every kindergarten in our country, and at child daycare center as well, to use this guidebook for create the activity for promote EQ for preschooler. This guidebook is for free for children or for teacher to use it to create the activity to promote EQ for preschooler. It's only Thai version, it doesn't have English version. So how to promote EQ effectively in the kindergarten or child daycare center? The first step is show how to do, because the children learn by copy from role model. So the parents, the caregiver, the health personnel should be the role model for them, because they will copy what they see, you will do what they see. And the second step is teach how to do. The way that you teach the children is to use in a simple word, and you can act while you teach them, because they will have limitation of cognitive. So if they use the word is complex, they will not understand it, they will not know how to do. So you should teach with simply and with action. And the third step is reminding. Reminding is you should to tell them before they act, because if you tell them before they act, they will inhibit themselves before they act. They will learn how to inhibit themselves before they act if you remind before they act. But if you let them do something wrong and you talk with them after that, sometimes they will not remember and they will act again. They will learn from their mistakes. So the reminding is the best way to teach them to inhibit themselves before they act at the wrong thing. And the last step is follow up and admire. Follow up is you have to observe them when they do. The follow up is they have to observe them, and if they do good, they do great, you have to give some positive reinforcement to encourage them to do again and again. For Thailand, we use this strategy. For children, we use this direction, and we put this process on the guidebook that the teacher can use this guide for promote EQ for preschooler. Okay, next is the tool for EQ assessment in Thailand. We developed this tool for the children aged 3 to 5 years and for the school age 6 to 11 years. So from this session, we will talk about the form for preschooler, because this course we focus on early childhood, right? So for 3 to 5 years, we have two versions. The first one is short version, consists of 15 items, cover 3 domains. 3 domains that I mentioned earlier: goodness, smartness, and happiness. This tool will help children know weakness and strength of each child. And the full version consists of 55 items, cover 3 domains as well, used for children with low EQ score in short form version. So the next slide, I will show you about the guideline, how to use the short version and the full version of EQ assessment. But if teacher want to use this tool, teacher will acquaint with children at least 4 months, because when teacher use this tool, they have to know about the behavior of children that related with each domain. So let's see with the flow chart. You can see the flow chart, how we do the EQ screening in Thailand. The first time we used short version for screening, short form version, 15 items for access EQ for children. If they are normal, they can continue the activity as curriculum, no need extra activities. Just follow the curriculum that the school provide for the children, if they are normal. But if the score of EQ is lower than standard or the normal standard, the teacher have to reassess again with full version, 55 items. And plus with the teacher have to create the activities for EQ promotion. So for the process of EQ promotion, the parents and the teacher will work together to continue to promote EQ. Continuity 6 months, and after 6 months, we'll reassess again. And if EQ is still lower than standard, we will refer them to the hospital, with the specialist, with the specialist in hospital. This is our flow chart when we use EQ screening. Every process start from short version, full version, is made by teacher. But in the referral process, is in the hospital, so the doctor, pediatrician will diagnose diagnose some problem about the child, is why, and will find the cause why they have the lower EQ than other. Maybe they have some disease, for example, autism or ADHD, and related with their ability. But you have to but teacher have to sure that in the 6 months of the process of promotion EQ, they have to continue to promote EQ enough, because if they have low EQ but they don't get other activity to promote, it's impossible for them to become a normal EQ without enough promotion. No, it's our. So how to scoring this tool? It is a rating scale, and this commit 1 to 4. 4 is always show this behavior. 3 is frequently, 2 is sometimes, and 1 is never. So, and how in the preparation, when the teacher use this tool, the score between 40 to 55 is normal score. If the higher score is mean higher than standard, and if lower than 40, it means that the lower than standard, and they have to reassess again with full version of EQ. So, Iman, I saw Iman raise.
Yeah, I want to ask a question.
Yes.
When did you start implementing this whole EQ assessment in your whole country?
Again, please.
When did you start implementing EQ assessment all over Thailand?
How we accept, how
When?
when or
Yeah.
Every semester
every semester.
up to that policy.
So did you find high prevalence of low EQ after you implemented this whole EQ system?
Implement
เขาถามถึงอุบัติการณ์ถูกไหมคะ
No, again, please.
implement low
High prevalence of low EQ or high prevalence of children that need promotion. Did you find high prevalence of them after implementing EQ assessment all over Thailand?
She asked that after we implement EQ screening, the prevalence of lower EQ is higher or lower than the past after we use.
We go back to the statistic. I'm not sure.
Before with the statistic, we will go to the next question first because Ajahn Pisamai help me to find the statistic to answer your question.
Yeah, okay.
Please wait a few minutes for the next question.
No one.
You have other questions?
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I will answer your question later, Iman, because I didn't find the prevalence of low EQ in the past before we use this guideline. But now the prevalence of lower EQ around 30%. But I'm not sure about the past. We're not sure about the past because I'm not sure the past we use the tool or we use the tool or not to access the EQ. I will answer you later.
Hello.
One.
Can you go back to the flow chart?
One more.
Can you go back to the flow chart again?
Flow chart, okay.
Go back to the flow chart. Okay.
So if the reassessment at 6 months is low, then who do you refer the children to?
Refer to the hospital for specialists.
Which specialist?
Pediatrician.
Pediatrician.
Yes.
Pediatrician.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Hello.
And Mandy.
Yes. I just want to know the reliability of this instrumental scale.
Again, please.
The reliability.
Reliability.
Reliability of scale. You have information, Ajahn Chutara?
No. Mandy, I have no data now, so I will go back to search about the original version or the process of development this scale for you later, okay?
It's our watch card for a long time, so we have to go back to find out the information about the reliability of this tool.
Because before use the tool, maybe the reliability is already part, because if not part, Thai may not use. Because reliability too small than about 0.8 or 0.7, I think.
And Romeo.
Yes, yes, thank you. I would just like to follow up on the question regarding the referral to hospitals for children assessed below the standard EQ. Are all health facilities, or at what level of facilities do Thailand have specialists to assess children? At what level of hospitals? Thank you.
ให้รพช.ก่อนอะแต่ว่าขั้นแรกมันไปที่รพช.ก่อนรพช.มันไม่มีหมอพัฒนาการนะคะมันต้องไป assess first. The first step, we refer them to the hospital in community. It's a general pediatrician to like an initial diagnose, and if they found some problem that complicated, or they will refer them to the higher level of the hospital that has the specialist about child development. We have the step of referral, start from community and the center and the tertiary hospital. Thank you. And
next question.
Okay, answer.
Okay. Next. The next slide.
Professor, may I have a question, please?
Okay.
So thank you for your presentation. So I would like to know if in Thailand do EQ screen over the country or just only some area?
EQ screening, right?
Whole country.
Yes.
Normally, all schools and child care centers have to do this. It's like the standard. Every semester, the teacher has to evaluate the EQ of their student. And how about the flow chart that Ajahn Juthara said? Normally, we don't have the student with low EQ separately. We found that some children have low EQ related with low development, not low, sorry, delayed development. So most of cases with delayed development with low EQ will be sent to the hospital to see the psychology personnel or the nurses who
Dulce, lo quebró.
Pardon? What?
Sorry, we have an accident with a child in my house.
To answer your question, normally all schools and child care center have to screen the EQ of the student in each center. Okay.
You mean every child care center, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. SM.
What are the domains of full version of IQ?
Pardon?
What are the domains of full version of IQ?
IQ, na? Again, please.
What is your question?
Again, please. Sorry.
What are the domains or items of full version of IQ.
IQ.
item อะไร item มีคำว่า item เนาะอะไรอ่ะ
To ask about definition of IQ.
Domains
Domain.
of the version of full version.
IQ
Domain ไหนอะ Which domain?
the domain of
Items or domain.
Item.
Oh.
Which item?
You ask about IQ, right? Intelligent quotients, not EQ, right?
IQ or EQ
Items of emotional intelligence in full version in Thailand.
พิมพ์ได้ไหม
intelligent
Can you type in chat box? Can you type in the chat box? I'm not sure about your question. What is your question? Could you please type and
Okay.
give answer later? You can go on.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I will go on to continue. So this from this slide, I will translate the item from short version to you guys. So the first domain goodness, they consist of 5 items. The children is assessed in 5 items, consists of show compassion for others and stop action when prohibit. When the teacher said, oh, don't do that, they will stop. If they do it every time, you will give 4 score, and sometimes, mostly, they do it, you will get 3, and sometimes get 2, and if they never stop when teacher requests them to stop, they will give 0. Something like that in each item. The 4 for full score. And the third one is sharing with others. It means sharing their toy while they're playing with their friends. And say sorry when they do something wrong, and be patient. These 5 items is we use to access in goodness domain. And for smartness domain, we access by this behavior. The first one is eager, is the show behavior, want to learn the new thing, interesting to learn the new thing. And the second one is interest the new activity. It's always asked when the teacher start the activity. And the third one is asking about interesting thing. The first is able to play with unwanted toys. It's measure that they can cognitive flexibility to play, to have their own happiness with the unexpected situation, because they don't want to play this toy, but no toy for them. They will create how to play with this. And the fifth is accept regulations. And the last domain is happiness. It consists of 5 items as well. The children is accessed by, they show proud of oneself by telling the story about the situation that they feel proud. And the second is able to find toys or activities for own happiness. The third is express positive emotion. And they can tell, oh, now I'm happy because today the teacher give me candy, something like that. They can express that positive emotion. And the fourth one is the negative question. You can see that the fourth one is negative emotion. If children isolate themselves while activity times. And the last question, the last item is not afraid when encountering the stranger. So all item is access the happiness domain of children. It's a short form version. So you can say that all of item is the behavior that teacher have to access the children. So why they have to know the natural of children well before they use this tool. Because if you see the children 1 or 2 days or 1 week, sometimes some behavior, they not express it. So the effective to use this tool, teacher have to know children well. So the EQ development in preschool, how we do if we want to promote the EQ development in preschool children. The first is practice children to control themselves and to delay their action during their daily activities. By telling them to stay in line and waiting for their turn, teacher can create the activities for serve these methods. By you will create activity that call their name to come get something from teacher, something like that. The children will learn how to inhibit themselves, how to waiting until the teacher call their name. And the second is understanding emotion. You can teacher will teach children to understand the emotion by through the storytelling or some activity from picture, and tell them what, and ask them some question that help them to think about the emotion. For example, why do you cry? Something like that. Because if you ask, the asking is the best strategy to help children to learn and to think about the feeling. And they will express what they think about the feeling. The third one is acting out the emotion. You can use role play for help them learn the variety of emotion. Because sometimes they don't know about other feeling. Why teacher look at my face, they don't know. Now teacher is angry on them, right? Because some emotion they never experienced before. That's why we have to teach them to know the variety of emotion. And the fourth is showing concern and empathy to other people. Teach them how to say sorry when they do something wrong, how to say thank you when someone gives something to them. So to summarize, the EQ start to develop from first day of life and continue throughout the period of lifespan. So teacher, caregiver should encourage them to learn and to develop emotional quotient, because that we mentioned earlier, and that the medical research proved that the emotional quotient is the one of aspect to help the children achieve their goal. It's not only IQ. So I think it's now the time for us to focus on IQ and EQ together, and EF as well, that we will learn in next session. So, do you have any question for EQ?
I have a question.
Yes.
My question is, do you have special education teacher for children with physical and or intelligent disabilities?
In some school, we have the special education teacher for the children who have some special. we have special teacher for some children who have like about learning ability, but in some school it's not every school. Mostly in the private school, yes. We have Lester.
Yeah, I have two questions. My first question is, what is the main action or work of nurses in the EQ promotion? What is the main work of nursing in the EQ promotion? And the second one is, do you promote the emotional quotient only in scholar age or before that, in the caregiving children, or before the preschooler institutionalization?
The first question is the nurse role or healthcare provider role for promote EQ, right? Right?
Thank you, teacher.
Well,
let's go.
In the presentation, we can appreciate that the nurse educate or teach the professor how to identify with the tools problem with the EQ, and to treat it or refer to a specialist. But what is the main word of nursing? They are only like educational intervention for professor, or they make intervention with children with problems with emotional quotient?
Health education for teacher and parents. The role of nurse. You asked about the role of nurses to promote EQ in children, right? Actually, nurses do only health education for the parents and for the teacher. We have to we do some workshop to enhance the capacity of the teacher in the child care center and kindergarten, how to evaluate and promote EQ in children. The nurse do not pay directly loan to promote EQ in children, because we have a lot of tasks. We can not promote the EQ directly for each student, for each child.
And the second question is about the tools. They are used only in the preschooler age, or do you have tools to apply before the preschooler age?
No. Before like that.
Before preschooler age,
we have the tool for the preschooler and school age. We divided that into two groups, 3 to 5 years and 6 to 11 years. And someone who asked about the domain of EQ of full version used in Thailand, is it the same domain, right?
Yes.
3 domains.
The same domain, but maybe more item in each domain, because we have to identify the problem in each domain.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for your question. Thank you.
Mindy.
Sorry.
Yes, I want to find out how long it takes to administer the questionnaire. How long will it take the teacher or the guy conducting the research to administer the questionnaire or the instrument? And number two, whether the process is usually done in a covert manner, that is to say, secretly, without the child knowing that the researcher is actually conducting the research. Because I know a child of 3 years, probably he may not give you an answer. So whether it is the caregivers or is based on observation rather than asking questions, because a child of 3 years or 4 years will definitely not answer anything sensible to you. And another thing, basically those are the two questions: how long it will take you to administer the questionnaire, and also how do you collect your data from this kid.
Normally, yes. Normally, the teacher have to know student at least 4 months before evaluate the EQ. You see, is this your question?
I think maybe they asked about how long did we take how long did we take the questionnaire in each children, right?
Yep.
Because we have only for short version we have only 15 items, and in each item I think for each children we spend around 5 minutes to use the tool for short version.
Yes, not long time, because you know your child already, you know each child in your class, right? Suppose you are a teacher, you know all students in your classes and in your class, and you can rate. What about this one? Is I mean that you don't need to observe directly for each time, because you know it's for a long time. As I said before, you have to know students at least 4 months before you rate their EQ. So every day you know their action, you know their behavior, right? So you can rate.
It's not take time. It's easy to use. So the teacher can do it in short time.
So it's based on the teacher's observation after some few months of interaction with the student.
On events, during the day, you can observe, because you know the item already, right? So you can observe.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good question.
Second question ยังไม่ตอบพอดีจำได้
Romeo.
Who will the next?
Actually, I'm typing my question. Okay, my question is, how do you give the results of the evaluation to the parents? Because the assessment that you gathered from each children reflects on the way how parenting or does to its children. So how do you give the results or assessments to each parent or guardian, especially if the result is low on the evaluation?
How to give information to parents?
How do you give to parents the results of evaluation of their children?
Yes. Normally in Thailand, every day the teacher have to talk or give information about the student to the parents every day. So whenever you evaluate them, you can talk to the parents. What about the result of EQ evaluation?
And some school they also have the individual books for teacher to write down the information about the children. So after the teacher evaluate or assess the EQ, they can write it down on the individual book and send it to parent.
So a follow-up question, how's the acceptability of the parents given that the result is low?
In reality, some parents can accept, but some cannot accept. That is the challenge for the teacher, how to deal with the parent who cannot accept the result, right? For example, sometimes for developmental, okay, I will give an example with developmental evaluation. We have some problem when we work in the field. If you found that the children have delayed development, and you have to communicate with the parent, right? Some parents don't accept that. They don't agree with you. So you have to have some strategy. That is the teacher, I mean that the teacher need a workshop or training about communication with the parent. That is our children also, as well as the health screening in the morning. You see, in the past, we don't measure the body temperature. And at the first time that we start this procedure, we have a lot of problems because the parents don't agree with you. They don't bring their child back home in case that they have some fever. So we have to communicate. We have to use a lot of strategy. It's up to the ability of the teacher. Sometimes they have to ask the principal, right? Or the director of the school to talk with the parents. Yeah. Did you get the answer?
Yes, agree.
Yeah.
So you also provide counseling to parents?
Yeah.
Do you also provide counseling to parents?
Yes. The counseling, and maybe we use strategy to give the information that the ability that the child improve to encourage parents to help the children, because sometimes they don't focus on the children ability, but when they come to school, the teacher access the ability and they found that, oh, they improve. When we tell this information is the way, is one of the way to encourage parents to accept and to continue to promote the child ability.
Danny ยกมือใช่ไหมจากชากัมพูเดีย
Iman, sorry.
Yes.
For you waiting.
The whole time we are talking about children with low EQ. What about the children with the highest score of EQ? Do they have advanced class or something, or are they grouped? They have some special training or somehow? Children with high score. The highest score.
High score.
Yes.
High school.
High score.
Yes, high score.
High school. We don't. Like two, or we don't have the two for them.
Okay, so they don't have any special classes or advanced classes.
Excuse me.
The classes for what?
อาจารย์เปา It seems that she wants to know that do we have the special class for the student group who had a higher score for EQ? Means that special class to develop or to promote their EQ.
No.
Am I right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay.
No. We have no class for the children with high score of EQ, because children have to learn the ability of each other.
So it's not related to IQ or intelligence.
IQ.
IQ or EQ.
Executive function, it's not related to intelligence.
Yes, for what?
Executive function, is that not related to intelligence?
You want to make EQ related to intelligence or not?
Yes.
EQ related with IQ is not, right? Or not?
The question is EQ is related to executive function or not? Am I right?
Yes.
Okay.
Or you ask about EQ and executive function?
Yes.
Okay, the executive function will support both EQ and IQ, because the three of them it work together. You cannot separate that. If you have high EQ, you can separate it. You can separate the all domain, because it work together. Because emotion EQ focus on emotion, right? EQ focus on emotion, EF focus on the attention, and IQ focus on cognitive intelligence. So all of them work together, because if children don't have EF, they cannot attention. So if they cannot pay attention at something, they cannot get high cognitive intelligence.
So why don't you focus on children with high score of executive function? They are gifted, right?
Focus.
Children with high score of executive function, they are gifted.
Children with high executive function.
Yeah.
And
they are gifted because they have high EQ and IQ. So why don't they have any special or advanced classes?
You can ask your question again after Ajahn Jutharat finish lecture about
executive function, and maybe you will get some answer. If you don't get the answer from the lecture, you can ask again. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Is related with EQ or not? I know one. Play video first. Marshmallow taste. Okay, before we start executive function lecture, we will show you about some video about marshmallow test that we use to test executive function for the children.
Okay, sit in that chair. All right, here's the deal. Marshmallow for you. You can either wait, and I'll give you another one if you wait, or you can eat it now. When I come back, I'll give you another one, so then you'll have two. But stay in here and stay in the chair till I come back, okay? All right. I'm gonna go do something and then I'll come back.
It smells yummy. Oh, it smells really good.
So it's up to you. You can have it now or you can wait. Okay? I'll be back. Stay in the chair, okay? Okay. I'm gonna leave and then I'll come back, okay? So you can either eat it right now or you can wait. Either way, okay? Okay.
Why I need to wait? Take it now.
How'd you do? Did you do good? You did? Yeah. You wanted to eat it, didn't you? Yeah. So did I tell you I'd give you another one? Okay, now you can have both. You need them.